Hi all, I welcome you all to the next lecture today. I'm going to start the next chapter. So here you will be exposed to the concepts of ideal gas and gas mixtures. Prior to that, we have covered the fundamental 8 chapters of engineering thermodynamics, starting from introduction and ending with the availability and unavailability. Parallel to that, you have been given an idea to how to deal with the properties of steam, particularly using the steam table. All right. So we have gone through a detailed, explanation of properties of pure substances, where various phase change processes were discussed and corresponding applications were also been discussed. So today the agenda of class is to give you an idea about ideal gas, where you will be exposed to the ideal gas equation of state. Already from your 10 plus 2 physics, you would be familiar with the basic definition, general definition of ideal gas. All right, and some idea you might have been having about the equation of state, right? That is fundamental equation P is equal to MRT that we are using. So let's start our discussion for today here. So the fundamental thing is that what is an ideal gas? Ideal gas is something, right, which follows a particular equation of state that is called PV is equal to MRT. So any gas which follows that equation is known as ideal gas, right? But in reality, none of the gas is ideal gas. But for the sake of comparison of performance calculation, we always assume that gas is a perfect gas. First of all, let me start with the basic concept of a gas. What are the properties of gases, right? How will you say this is the gas and this is a liquid? First thing, gases are compressible. They are highly compressible. Second, gases always exert pressure. Gas pressure depends on the amount of confined gas where you are filling that gas in on those container surfaces, right? Gas will exert the pressure. And gas, as we know that gases do not have volume and shape, so wherever you will fill it, it will take the entire shape of that container, right? And another thing is that gases mix freely with each other, because they, if you look at the molecular spacing in gases, that will be very high, so they mix very easily, right, with other gases as well. Gas pressure increases with temperature, right? Gases have low viscosity, right? That's why they're having more expansion. They used to expand infinitesimally. Like liquid is having definite viscosity, that's why it cannot, flow readily. But it will have a fluidity, but not infinite fluidity. But gases, viscosity is almost negligible. That's why they used to expand freely wherever it doesn't depend on the pressure, amount of pressure in which you are exposing that gas. If you come to the gas laws, right, a large number of experiments have determined that four variables are sufficient to define the physical condition of a gas, and those were developed by the Boyle's law, Charles' law, and Avogadro's hypothesis. So, if we look at the Robert Boyle, right, he was a chemist. He was born in 1627 and he was died in 1691. He is known as father of chemistry. He gave an important law after doing a series of experiments, right? That is known as Boyle's law. So Boyle investigated the variation of volume occupied by the gas as the pressure exerted upon it was altered, and noted that volume of a fixed quantity of gas at constant temperature is inversely proportional to the pressure, right? That's important, outcome he has given after doing the experiment. So as per the Boyle's law, volume is inversely proportional to the pressure. So if you remove the proportionality, you will get a constant. So we can write PV is equal to constant. If you look at this equation, right, PV bears a relationship like a hyperbolic. So it is a basically a hyperbolic equation. So if you draw the variation, it will look like a hyperbolas, right, at different values of pressure and volume. So if you draw the variations, right, at different temperatures, right, you will get this kind of variations. So these are all these curves are basically hyperbolics, and these are constant temperature lines. Basically at particular constant temperature it will have a particular curve, then if you change the temperature value to some other level, it will have a different curve. So as per Boyle's law, right, pressure and volume bears a relationship similar to like a hyperbolic function or hyperbolic relation. Next one is Charles' law, right? A century later, a French scientist, Jacques Charles, discovered that the volume of a fixed amount of gas at constant pressure is proportional to the absolute temperature. So, as per that, total volume is directly proportional to the absolute temperature. If you remove the directly constant, you will get a constant, right? Proportionality constant. So you can say V divided by T is equal to constant. This was given by the Charles. Then later on, relationship between quantities of gas and volume established by the Gay-Lussac and Avogadro in 19th century. Result was the Avogadro's hypothesis, which states that equal volumes of gases at the same temperature and pressure contain equal numbers of molecules. So as per this, volume is directly proportional to the number of moles. So experiment shows that 22.4 liter of gas at 0 degrees C and 1 atmosphere, this is known as standard temperature and pressure, or 24.8 liter of gas at 298.15 Kelvin 1 bar, standard atmospheric temperature and pressure. Keep in mind, standard temperature pressure is 0 degree C and 1 atmosphere, and standard atmospheric temperature and pressure is 298.15 Kelvin and 1 bar. Contains 6.022 in 10 power 23 molecules. This is also known as Avogadro's number. Alright. So this is very important, relationship given by the Avogadro. So as per the Avogadro hypothesis, volume is directly proportional to the number of moles. This is the important outcome given by the Avogadro hypothesis. So as per this equation, volume bears a linear relationship with the number of moles. So as number of moles increases, volume also increases, right? So we can draw the variation over pressure and temperature, right, for the volume. So these are the constant volume lines, right? So temperature and pressure bears almost linear relationships. So as per the experiment, as if we are having only just 22.4 liter of liquid, it will have number of mole equal to 1. If we are doubling the volume, double will be the number of moles. That's what the important outcome of Avogadro hypothesis. Later on, Dalton came. Dalton actually gave the Dalton's law of pressure, right? He said that if a container is filled by different gases, then each and every gas will exert certain pressure, right? And that is known as partial pressures, right? So each individual gas will be exerting some pressure, right, compared to the total pressure of gas. That is known as partial pressure of individual gas. So if you add the partial pressure of each and every gas present in that container, that is called total pressure exerted over the container surface by the mixture of gases. So the total pressure in a container is the sum of the pressure each gas would exert if it were alone in the container. So the total pressure is the sum of partial pressures. So P total is equal to P1 plus P2 plus P3 plus P4 plus P5. So these are the 1, 2, 3 represent the number of constituents of gases filled in that container. So this was the important discovery of Dalton's, and that's why known as Dalton's law of partial pressure. Then later on Amigat's law came. So it's a statement of Amigat's law is the volume of an ideal gas of mixture V is equal to the sum of components volume of each individual component in the gas mixture at the same temperature and at total pressure of the mixture. So this is almost similar like Dalton's law of partial pressure. Here it has been given about the volume. So total volume is the volume of each and every constituent present in that container. So let's suppose gas A is having temperature T and pressure P and volume VA. If and another gas B which is having temperature T and P and volume B, and total volume of these two gases which are present in a container will have VA plus VV is equal to total volume. So you can write equations, right? PV is equal to nRT, right, for individual gases, or you can divide VA by Na. This is a means Avogadro hypothesis is equal to BV by NB. That is nothing but total volume divided by number of moles. Alright, or mole fraction you can say another way, or volume fraction you can say, is a volume fraction basically Va by Na. So Na by N is equal to Va by V. This is one mole fraction. So if you just expressing mole fraction of gas A, that will be nothing but volume of A divided by total volume. As we know, the volume is directly proportional to number of moles, so I can say number of mole of gas A divided by the total number of moles, right? And this is known as volume fraction Ya. Similarly, you can write YV, volume fraction of the gas B. This is nothing but volume of V divided by total volume, or number of moles of gas B divided by the total number of moles. This is known as the volume fraction of gas B. So if you combined all the three, right, Boyle's law, Charles law, and Avogadro hypothesis, if you write that, these are the three equations that you will be getting. First is Boyle's law, second is Charles law, third one is Avogadro hypothesis. If you combine these all, you can write volume is directly proportional to the N and T divided by P, right? N is here, T is here, divided by P. If you remove this proportionality constant, you will get another constant that is represented by the R, and this R is known as universal gas constant, which is fixed for all sort of gases, right? So if you expand it, simplify it, you will get PV is equal to nRT, where P is the absolute pressure, V is total volume, N is number of moles, R is universal gas constant, T is the absolute temperature. This is known as ideal gas equation of state. Next, come to the mole and atomic mass. A mole is a very large number of discrete objects such as atoms, molecules, or sand grains. So specifically, how to find out the moles? If we use the Avogadro hypothesis, that is called Avogadro number. So it is nothing but Avogadro number of such things, 6 into 10, 6 into or 6.022 10 to the power 23 of them. So take one example. If 12 gram of C12 contains 1 mole of carbon 12 atom, you look at carbon is having 12 atoms, so 1 mole of it will be having 12 atoms. So now we need to find out what is the mass of one mole of it. So 12 gram divided by the number, what is called Avogadro number, will give the mass of one atom, right? It is having 12 atoms. The mass of one atom you want to know, and total mass must be divided by the Avogadro number, because number of moles is Avogadro number basically. So if you divide that, you will get 1.993 10 to the power 26 minus 26 kilogram. This is the mass of one atom. The mass of one C12 atom is also 12 atomic mass unit basically, right? AMU. So one mass atomic unit will be nothing but there are 12, right? So you have to divide this thing, right? Mass divided by the 12 to get one atomic mass unit. Clear? That is coming around 1.661 10 to the power minus 27 kilogram. So this is the molecular weight of one single atom, right? Molecular weight of one single atom, and this mass that you have calculated for C12 is the 12 divided by the Avogadro number, that will give the total mass of one C12 atom. But C12 is having 12 atoms. You look at here, this is not a mass of single C, it is a mass of one C12 atom, and now C12 atom is having 12 atoms. So for one atom, what is the mass? This total mass that you have calculated must be divided by 12 to get the one atom mass, or you can say one atom mass unit, which is coming around 1.661 10 to the power minus 27 kilogram. So if we have n particles, how many moles in that? If you want to know, you have to divide number of particles divided by the Avogadro number, right? You will get the number of moles. So number of moles is equal to total number of particles present divided by the Avogadro number, which is fixed there, right? So if we have a given mass of something, how many moles do we have? If you want to calculate, then mass of sample divided by the mass per mole, right? Or mass of sample divided by the atomic or molecular mass, that is known as number of moles. So total mass is 12 kilogram, right? And I want to know how many number of moles are there. If I know the atomic mass unit of a one atom, right, I can divide total mass divided by one atomic mass, that will give the number of moles, right? So number of moles is equal to mass of sample divided by mass per mole, or mass of sample divided by the atomic or molecular mass. So what is the mole fraction? Earlier we have defined the volume fraction. So volume fraction is nothing but the volume of one constituent divided by total volume. Similarly, mole fraction can also be defined like number of moles of that particular constituent divided by the total number of moles of all the constituents present in that mixture. So for a mixture of A, B and dot 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 substances, mole fraction is defined as number of mole of A divided by total number of moles, right? That is known as a mole fraction. So what is the Dalton's law of partial pressures? We know that total pressure is equal to summation of partial pressure of individuals of PA plus PB plus P. Like that you can write. Clear or not? That can also be written as XA into total pressure, right? Or XV total pressure plus dot dot dot, or you can say if you divide by total pressure throughout, right? Throughout you can write 1 is equal to XA plus XV plus dot 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 plus dot dot dot, like that you can write. So the mole fraction of A plus mole fraction of B, like that if you add mole fraction of each and every molecules or each and every constituent present in the cylinder, that will give the total pressure, right, present in the container. So 1 is equal to XA plus XB plus dot dot dot, or just simply total pressure is equal to partial pressure of each constituent, that is known as Dalton's law of partial pressure. What are the mixture properties? Let's suppose there are a number of constituents present in the container. If you want to know the total characteristic gas constant, right, then you need to write M1 R1 M2 R2 plus dot dot dot, how many constituents are there, divided by the total mass, that will give the characteristic gas constant, right, for the mixture. Similarly, you can find out the internal energy of the mixture by using same analogy, right, M1 U1 plus M2 U2 plus dot 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 divided by the total mass. Specific heat at constant pressure can also be calculated by using similar analogy, M1 Cp1 plus M2 Cp2 plus dot 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 divided by total mass. Like that you can calculate properties. Enthalpy of mixture will further be calculated in a similar way, M1 H1 M2 H2 plus dot 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 MC Sc divided by total mass. Similarly, you can find out the mixture specific heat at constant volume using same analogy, M1 Cb1 plus M2 Cb2 plus dot dot divided by the total mass. And this is the entropy change of the mixture. So entropy change of the mixture as volume is constant, so there is only variable called pressure, right? So change in entropy is just simply minus mr ln of P1 by P plus M2R2 ln of P2 by P plus dot 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 MCRC ln of PC by P. Why only pressure is coming? Because volume is fixed, right? It is going to be filled in a container, so volume is fixed. So change in entropy entirely depend on the pressure difference, right? So that's why mr ln of P1 by P, this is for one constituents, right? Similarly, how many constituents are there, you can add those values here. So mr1 ln of P1 by P, m2r2 ln of P2 by P plus dot dot dot, and negative sign will come in this. This is called entropy change of the mixture. So like that you can find out the entropy properties change of the mixture. Come to the ideal gas. What is the ideal gas? An ideal gas was one whose particles are well behaved. So in terms of Newtonian theory of collisions, elastic collisions and the impulse momentum theorem. So an ideal gas is one in which the particles have no interactions, right, except for perfectly elastic collisions with each other and the walls of the container, right. These are some of the standard assumptions. An ideal gas has no chemistry, right, that is particles, atoms or molecules have no tendency to stick to each other, right, through chemical bonds. So example are inert gases, helium, neon, argon, right, Kr, Xg, xenon, Rn, at low density are very good approximations to the ideal gas, right? So these three primary conditions, as said, right, particles will be well behaved, they will not have internal any chemistry, right? If collision will happen, that will be perfectly elastic, that means molecules are not going to deform, right? So these are some, three standard assumption, and this need to be considered, right, when you are saying a particular gas is ideal gas. So ideal gas properties, right, particularly if you look at volume of gas molecules is negligible compared to the total gas volume. Forces of attraction or repulsion between the molecules or walls of containers are zero. No loss of internal energy due to collisions, right? So these 3 points you note it down, right? There will be no volume occupied by the molecules, right? First thing, there is no force of attraction repulsion between the molecules or between the molecules and walls, right? No loss of internal energy due to the collision is perfectly elastic, it is not going to make any change to the shape of molecules. So let's come to the equation of state again. If we are combining, you are getting PV is equal to nRT, where R is called universal gas constant, right? Keep in mind. So if we segregate the things, right, we can write in this way: universal gas constant value is fixed, that you have to memorize 8314 joule per kilogram mole K. This is the value of universal gas constant, which is same for all the gases, right? And all this pressure, volume, absolute temperature, right, number of moles. We can also write the ideal gas equation of state in terms of number of particles instead of number of moles. And we know that there is a relationship between number of particles and number of moles in such a way that if there are n number of particles, if you want to find out number of moles, you have to divide by the Avogadro number. Or you can say total number of particles is equal to number of moles into the Avogadro number. Right. So in place of n, you can write n divided by Na. If you substitute that, you can write the equation this way. Right. So you look at here, what basically has been done. You have multiply and divide by Na in that basic equation of PV is equal to nRT, and this term R divided by Na is known as Boltzmann constant, right? K is equal to R divided by Na, which is having a fixed value 1.38 10 to the power minus 23 joule per Kelvin. This is known as Boltzmann constant. So PV is equal to nRT further has converted into another new form. PV is equal to nkt, where n is the number of particles, right? K is Boltzmann constant and T is absolute temperature. Now come to the internal energy and enthalpy of an ideal gas. So Joule's law first, that is very important. Joule's law states that specific internal energy of a perfect gas depends only on temperature of gas and is independent of both pressure and volume. So as per the Joule's law, internal energy is a function of temperature alone, absolute temperature alone. So Joule basically he has carried out an experiment, and finally he proved that internal energy entirely depend on the temperature. So there is no impact of the pressure, right, changes over the specific internal energy. So what was the Joule's experiment? Joule carried out the experiment, right, using a device which is shown in this figure, right? If you look at this, it is a container, right? A container was filled with a water, and the boundaries of containers were fully insulated, right? There are two cylinders, right, which are connected to each other by a valve, right? One cylinder is basically evacuated tank, another is air under high pressure, which is filled here, that is gas basically we have assumed, and this is a valve, right? And a thermometer was attached. If there is any change in temperature, that will be sensed by the thermometer. All right. So let suppose, right, boundaries are fully insulated, nothing will come from outside into the system, right? So now what actually he did, he opened the valve, right, and allowed the air to flow and fill the evacuated tank. And after some time he found that there is no change in any other property apart from the temperature, apart from the temperature, right? There was no change in pressure, right? There is no expansion or compression taken place because of opening the valve. There was slight change in temperature because of the energy got transfer, and he finally concluded that, right, there is no change in internal energy due to other parameters other than the temperature. So Joule's finding is basically, after the tank and water had attained the same temperature, the valve between two tanks were opened and air slowly passed through, right, and filled the surface. Since there was no change in temperature of water, he concluded that there was no heat transfer between air and water, right. So when he measured the temperature, right, what interaction happened between two tanks, there was no temperature change which was coming across the system boundary. So, so he said that since there was no work during this process, so dW is 0. So as per the first law, he concluded that dE is equal to 0, right? Because there is no heat interaction as well. He did not find any temperature, change of the water due to this flow. So he concluded that dE is equal to 0, or you can say energy is constant, right? Energy is constant. So again, both pressure and volume changed basically. Initial pressure and volume of gas in one tank was different. When he filled the, it filled the entire second tank, as well as pressure and volume got changed. So basically, these two parameters got changed, but there was no change in internal energy. So that means internal energy doesn't depend on the pressure and volume. So it depends only on temperature. As it is, as in his experiment, there was no change in temperature, right? So he concluded that if we change the temperature, then only there will be change in internal energy of the system. So as an outcome of this experiment, he concluded that specific internal energy entirely depends on temperature. It doesn't depend on pressure and volume. Right, and finally, as enthalpy is U plus RT, right, as already it has been proved that internal energy depends on temperature, so enthalpy is also a function of temperature for a perfect gas. Clear? Now come to the specific heat capacities of ideal gas. So specific heat capacity is that constant volume is defined as change in internal energy divided by the change in temperature at when volume is constant, that's known as Cv. So Cv is equal to dou U by dou T by keeping volume constant. So it may be seen that Joule's law for an ideal gas internal energy is a function of temperature. So we can say Cv is equal to du by dt. Since H is equal to U plus PV, from Boyle's law we know that PV is a function of temperature, right? So enthalpy is also a function of temperature by similar argument. So we can say Cp is equal to dH by dt. So Cp is equal to dH by dt. Now if you take H is equal to U plus PV, PV is equal to RT. If you differentiate this equation, you can write dH by dt is equal to du by dt plus R. What is dH by dt? This is known as Cp and this is known as Cv. This is our characteristic gas constant. So you can write Cp is equal to Cv plus R, or you can say Cp minus Cv is equal to R. This is one equation. Now let's see equation of specific heat capacity of an ideal gas. Since both in specific internal energy and specific enthalpy are the function of temperature alone, the equation of Cp and Cv must also be a function of temperature alone then. They usually express in terms of Cp is equal to A plus Kt. These are all constants, right? So if there is no variation of Cp with the temperature, right, then Cp will be a constant value and Cp will also be a one particular constant value. But in some cases, Cp and Cv vary with the temperature. In that case, we have to use this sort of equation to find out the variation of Cp and Cv, where AB, K1, K2 are constant, values of specific enthalpy, etc. are then obtained by integration of this term, right? So, as I said, as pressure is negligibly, right, and temperature is infinity, then the real gas approaches the ideal gas behavior. So, if you want to make an assumption that perfect gas, this is a perfect gas, and condition is pressure is negligibly small but temperature may be infinity. Under that condition, you can say that gas is an ideal gas, and R is nothing but universal gas constant, which is given by 8.3143, which is fixed kilojoule per kilomole Kelvin. 8.3143, which is fixed, 1 kilojoule per kilojoule per Kelvin. 1 kilojoule per kilojoule per Kelvin, which is given by 8.3143, which is fixed kilojoule per kilomole Kelvin. 8.3143, which is fixed, 1 kilojoule per kilojoule per Kelvin. So We have derived two TDS relationship, one TDS relationship for the closed system. For closed system, we define the internal energy. So TDS equal to du plus PdV. This is called displacement work. Another TDS relation we have derived for the open system, where enthalpy change need to be uh, incorporated, and shaft work, that is called flow work, VDP. So another equation is TDS is equal to DH minus BDP. So these are the two TDS relationship. First one is applicable to the closed system and second one is applicable to the open system. Specific heat ratio gamma, there is nothing but Cp divided by Cv, usually given by this relationship. Gamma is equal to 1 plus 2 divided by n, where n is known as degree of freedom. So if it is a monatomic gas, right, then n value will be 3, right. These all basically derived from the experimental observations. So if you put the n is equal to 3, you can get gamma value for monatomic gas. So if you put n equal to 3, you will get 1.667. So for helium, right, argon, for these gases, if you are using specific heat ratio, that will be 1.67. If it is a diatomic, then n is equal to 5. If you put the n is equal to 5, you will get gamma is equal to 1.4. So 1.4 value is for diatomic gas. So it may be O2, right? Oxygen, nitrogen, whatever gas you will consider which is having two atoms, right? You can write gamma is equal to 1.4. Triatomic gas like carbon dioxide and all, n is equal to 6. If you put a 6 value here, right, you will get 1.33, right? Gamma is equal to 1.33, right? So for triatomic gas, CO2, H2O, H2O is a water, right? Other gas, right, which is having 3 atoms, gamma value will be 1.33. Keep in this mind these values. Gamma is equal to 1.67 for triatomic and monatomic, and 1.4 for diatomic, and triatomic 1.33. And for reversible adiabatic processes, already we derived the isentropic relations. Pb is equal to gamma is equal to constant, or you can say T2 by T1 is equal to P2 by P1 to the power gamma minus 1 upon gamma. That can also be related with the specific volume, V1 by V2 to the power gamma minus 1. Van der Waals gas equation of state, we know P plus A by V square, V minus V is equal to RT. This is the Van der Waals equation, right. This is the basic general definition, right, that you might have gone through in your 10 plus 2 physics. So P plus A by V square, V minus V is equal to RT, and from here if you rearrange the terms, you can get pressure is equal to RT divided by V minus A by V square, right. And these are the reduced properties, just you leave it. For this derivation will be derived when I will introduce you regarding the real gas concept. Just you take this equation, Van der Waals equation of state is given by P plus A by V square, V minus V is equal to RT. Now come to the processes. We know that there are various kind of processes. Those processes will be defined by the property changes. If it is isobaric process, pressure will be constant, and polytropic index value is will be 0 for isobaric process. So Pb is equal to constant. This is the equation which need to be followed. Isothermal process, temperature is constant. We can say n is equal to 1, or you can get Pv is equal to RT, which is a constant, right. Pv is equal to R is a constant, temperature is constant here. Isentropic process is the one in which entropy remains constant, or you can say n is equal to gamma, right. P for gamma is equal to constant. If it is isometric or isobaric, in that volume is equal to constant, or you can say polytropic index is infinity, right. This already been covered in introduction chapter. And for mixture properties, we know that these are the mole fractions basically. So this equation will be given like this, or characteristic gas constant for the mixture will be given by this equation. Specific internal energy will be given by this equation. This is for mixture properties, and Cp value for the mixture will be given by this equation. Similarly, enthalpy and Cb can be calculated. This is the change in entropy, right, for the mixture. In that we can say, as volume is constant, so there is a variable only pressure. So M1 R1 ln of P1 by P, M2 R2 ln of P2 by P plus dot dot dot. This is the change in entropy of the mixture. So this is the concept basically of ideal gas. Let's see some numerical problems, right, based on the ideal gas concept. Consider the first problem. A steel flask of 0.04 meter cube capacity is to be used to store nitrogen at 120 bar 20 degrees C. The flask is to be protected against excessive pressure by a fusible plug which will melt and allow the gas to escape if the temperature rises too high. First part of this, how many kilogram of nitrogen will the flask hold at the designed condition? Second part of it, at what temperature must the fusible plug melt in order to limit the pressure of a full flask to a maximum of 150 bar. So try to understand the problem. It is a closed flask, right? Volume is not going to change and volume capacity is given 0.04 meter cube, right? That is not going to hurry. It is going to store the nitrogen at pressure 120 bar is going to basically store, and temperature condition is also given. Flask is to protected, it's used to be protected by using a fusible plug. First it is asking that how many kilogram of nitrogen can be filled, right? Second, if pressure is rises to 150 bar, then tell at what temperature, right, your plug is going to be melt. That need to be find out. That means final temperature at which 150 bar is going to be achieved, and that need to be calculated. All right. So solution, what is given? Capacity is given, pressure is given, temperature is given. So kilogram of nitrogen is being asked, right? So first you find out the characteristic gas constant for the nitrogen, right? So characteristic gas constant for the nitrogen is nothing but universal gas constant divided by the atomic mass unit, right, or molecular weight, or molecular weight. So the universal gas constant is 8314 and molecular weight of the nitrogen is 28. If you divide that, you will get the characteristic gas constant, right, for the nitrogen, which is here. We need to calculate the mass, so we need to use the ideal gas equation of state. PV is equal to m. When you are using the mass, right, then it will be characteristic gas constant. If you are using number of mole, then it will be universal gas constant. So PV is equal to mRT. So mass can be calculated. Mass is equal to PV divided by RT. And we know all the values, right? Pressure, volumes, initial are given, right? Characteristic gas constant already be calculated, right? And temperature can be kept, initial temperature which is given here 20 degrees C. So we can get 5.51. This is the first answer. How many kilogram nitrogen will be hold in the flask under the design condition? This is the one case. Second case is asking if pressure is rises to 150 bar, right? Then you need to find out what is the temperature. As you know from this problem, is a constant volume condition, right? So you can write P1 B1 by T1 is equal to P2 V2 by T2. A simple relation you can write. So T2 can be calculated, right? Because volume is fixed, right? V1 V2 are same, so T2 can be calculated. So temperature at which visual plug should be melt. Pressure, final pressure is given. Final volume is also initial volume, right? Mass already you calculated. So ideal gas equation of state has been used. PV is equal to mRT, and final pressure, final volume already you know, divided by the mass into characteristic gas constant, you can get the final temperature. Either you can go in this way, or you can write P1 by T1 is equal to P2 by T2, and P2 is given, P1 is given, T1 is given, T2 need to be calculated. You can calculate the T2 final temperature at which plug will be melted. Like that you can solve. It is coming 93.7 degree C. Take the second problem. A vessel of capacity 3 meter cube contains 1 kilogram mole of N2 at 90 degree C. Calculate pressure and specific volume of the gas. If the ratio of specific heat is 1.4, evaluate the value of Cp and Cv. Third, subsequently, the gas cools to the atmospheric temperature of 20 degrees C. Evaluate the final pressure of gas. Fourth, evaluate the increase in specific internal energy, the increase in specific enthalpy, increase in specific entropy, and magnitude and sign of heat transfer. Right, problem is very easy. First is calculate the pressure and specific volume. You know what is given, vessel is given, volume is fixed, right? 3 meter cube contains 1 kilogram mole, 1 kilogram mole. What is this basically? Number of moles are given of N2 at 90 degrees C. You need to find out the pressure and specific volume. So PV is equal to nRT you have to use, right? nRT you have to use. So number of moles are given 1, right? So directly you can calculate the pressure, right? Pressure can be calculated. So what is given? Mass of N2 1 kilogram mole, right? So 1 kilogram mole is the mass basically. So 1 mole is having how many atomic mass unit? 28, right? Because nitrogen molecular weight is 28. So mass is becoming basically 28 kilogram. 1 kilogram mole. So 1 kilogram into a number of moles. If you multiply, that is called total mass. Clear? So 28 kilogram. Capacity of vessel, that is given as 3 meter cube. Initial temperature is given 90 degrees C, that is called here 363. So it is asking what is the pressure and specific volume of gas. Use the ideal gas equation of state P1 V1 is equal to mR T1. What all things you know? You are having T1, you are having V1, you know the characteristic gas constant for nitrogen, right? If you don't know, you can calculate universal gas constant divided by the molecular weight. This is called characteristic gas constant. And mass is already we know 1 kilogram mole mass is given, that is 28 kilogram into temperature. So initial pressure you calculated. That's the one thing is over. And specific volume is called total volume divided by the mass. This is called specific volume. So first part of the problem is over. Calculate pressure and specific volume of gas. Now next one, if gamma is given, evaluate the Cp and Cv. So you know the formula, Cp is equal to gamma R divided by gamma minus 1 and Cv is equal to R divided by gamma minus 1. Use those formulas and you can calculate, right? So Cp by Cv is given 1.4, right? So Cp and Cv can be calculated directly, right? How will you calculate? Either use those formulas, already you know the derivation, Cp is equal to gamma R divided by gamma minus 1 and Cb is equal to R divided by gamma minus 1, or you can use fundamental equation Cp by Cb is 1.4 and Cp minus Cb is equal to R. R is called characteristic gas constant, which is here. You know these two equations, you put Cb is equal to 1.4 times of Cb here, calculate Cb, then substitute the value of Cb here, get Cp. So if you solve like that, you will get Cp is equal to 1.039 kilojoule per kilogram Kelvin or Cb is equal to 0.742 kilojoule per kilogram Kelvin. So second problem is also over. Subsequently, the gas cools to the temperature of 20 degrees C. It is getting cool up to 20 degrees C. Evaluate the final pressure. Again, you use the analogy, constant volume process it is, right? Vessel total volume is not changing. You can say P1 by T1 is equal to P2 by T2. Clear? P1 is given, already we calculated. T1 is already we know. P2 need to be calculated, T2 is given. Directly you can solve this. Last one, evaluate the increase in specific internal energy and increase in specific enthalpy, increase in specific entropy and magnitude and sign of heat transfer. Right, that's what is going to be asked. So increase in specific internal energy nothing but Cv T2 minus T1. You can calculate. Increase in specific enthalpy Cp T2 minus T1. T2 T1 are given. Increase in specific entropy, constant volume process, only pressure variation will be there, mr ln of P2 by P1. You can calculate. Magnitude and sign of heat transfer. So heat transfer in constant volume is nothing but change in internal energy, right? Whatever you calculated here, that will be called heat transfer. As internal energy will decrease because final temperature is lower, so internal energy is decreasing, so heat transfer is basically negative, that you are going to get. So if you solve, as I said that here P1, T1, P2, P2 can be calculated, right? Very simple way. And fourth, change in internal energy T2 minus T1 minus, right? Delta H Cp T2 minus T1, this is here, right? As we know, change in internal energy is negative, so heat transfer is also negative, right? Like that you can solve. Change in specific internal energy Cb ln of T2 by T1 R ln of V2 by V1. This term will not be there because volume are same. Only this term will be there, right? So you can calculate Cb ln of T2 by T1, that is coming minus 1 point minus 0.1589. So work is 0, so change in heat is negative, right? So negative sign. So like that you can solve the problem. Take the third problem. From an experimental determination, the specific heat ratio of acetylene C2H2 is found to be 1.26. find the two specific heats, right? We need to find out Cp and Cv, right? And specific heat ratio is given, gamma is given. So what is there? You know the formula, Cp is equal to gamma R divided by gamma minus 1. Only thing you need to find out the characteristic gas constant. So look at this carbon. What is the molecular weight of this? You can find out. Carbon is 12 into 2, 24 plus hydrogen 1 into 2, 2, 26. So basically you are getting 26 molecular weight, right? So once you get the molecular weight, characteristic gas constant is equal to universal gas constant divided by the molecular weight, right? You can find out the characteristic gas constant. The moment you know the characteristic gas constant, easily you can find out the specific heats because gamma is already given. So characteristic gas constant R is equal to universal gas constant divided by molecular weight. This is coming around 0.3198 kilojoule per kilogram Kelvin. So Cp is equal to gamma R divided by gamma minus 1. So to the value of gamma which is here, Cv can also be calculated. Take the next one, find the molar specific heat of monoatomic gas, diatomic gas and polyatomic gas. If their specific heat ratios are given 5 by 3, 7 by 5, 4 by 3. Molar specific heat. So per mole calculation you have to do. So when you are talking about molar specific heat, then instead of characteristic gas constant, you consider the universal gas constant because universal gas constant unit is per mole basis, right? So whatever you did here, right, with the characteristic gas constant, instead of characteristic gas constant, directly use the universal gas constant, and Cp and Cv can be written in molar, right, specific heat. So look at here, monatomic gamma, universal gas constant divided by gamma minus 1. You can substitute the value of gamma. As similarly, this is monoatomic. Similarly, you can go for diatomic and polyatomic using different value of gamma. So like that you can solve. Clear? Take this problem. This problem with this we will close the today's discussion. Right. So this is saying that a gaseous mixture contains 21% by volume of nitrogen and 50% by volume of hydrogen and 29% by volume of carbon dioxide. Alright. Calculate the molecular weight of the mixture, characteristic gas constant of the mixture and value of reversible adiabatic index gamma at 10 degrees C. The Cp value of nitrogen, hydrogen and carbon dioxides are given, right? So all things are given, you need to find out the mixture properties, right? Volume wise, constituents percentage are given. So volume ratio is given 21, 50%, 29%. As per Avogadro hypothesis, volume is directly proportional to the number of moles. So we can say the mass ratio is equal to number of moles, right, into the volume percentage, right, or molecular weight into what we say number of moles, right, molecular weight and number of moles. So B is direct equals to N. So these whatever volume percentage are given, there are number of moles. So number of moles into molecular weight will give the total mass of that particular gas. So mass ratio is becoming for this first gas is 21 into 28. For second gas 50 into 2, that is hydrogen. Last one is carbon dioxide 29 into 44. Clear? So look at here, mass of nitrogen is 21 and 28, this much kilogram. Mass of hydrogen, mass of CO2, right? Last one was the CO2. Make that change. Last one is CO2. So this is for CO2. This is around this much. So R mixture is equal to mass of nitrogen, R of nitrogen, mass of H2, R of H2, right? M CO2, R of CO2 divided by total mass. Now individually characteristic gas constant can be calculated from the universal gas constant. So characteristic gas constant of nitrogen is called universal gas constant divided by the molecular weight of nitrogen, right? So you can directly put the value 8314 divided by 28, or you can write in universal gas constant term, right? Rn2 is this, RH2 is this, and RCO2 is this. So you substitute here, everything will convert into the universal gas constant divided by the total mass. Universal gas constant value 8314, you substitute that, you will get the mixture characteristic gas constant. Cp, same analogy, M1 Cp1, M2 Cp2, like that you can use, and Cp values are if not given, you need to calculate Cp is equal to gamma r by gamma minus 1, and then you substitute here, right, divided by total mass. Cb, similarly Cb can be calculated, Cp minus Cb is equal to r, right. So Cb N2 is equal to Cp minus r divided by, this is characteristic gas constant, right. So Cb is equal to Cp minus r. You can calculate Cb H2 can be calculated in this way, and Cb CO2 can also be calculated in this way, because we know the Cp values. So Cb mixture, so these are the individual Cbs. So M1 Cb1, M2 Cb2, M3 Cb3 divided by total mass. So Cb mixture can be calculated 1.1505. Alright, this is the one way, or otherwise Cp of mixture already you calculated, R of mixture you calculated. So Cb of mixture is nothing but Cp of mixture minus R of mixture. You can directly get a same value you will be getting here also. Specific heat ratio of mixture is Cp of mixture divided by Cb of mixture. If you divide this, you will get 1.368. That is called specific heat ratio of the mixture. With this, I am closing the today discussion. Right. In the next class, we will see some more numerical problems. Right, based on the ideal gas equation of state. Then we will proceed to the real gas concept. So if you are having any doubt in this, please feel free to write in the comment section, or you can directly send me a WhatsApp message. See you all in the next class. Have a nice day. Good day.